Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, I wanted to welcome you to a brand new type of video today where I'm going to be taking the swing trades that I've put into my swing trade series. You can find that playlist on my channel. And I wanted to go over what I did in August. And I basically made a spreadsheet of all of the buys that I made in August, and those are on the videos, right? I always put the video out and say, here's what I bought today and why. But what I don't ever do is go in and then say, I closed this trade today and here's the profit that I had, and or here are the trades that went against me, and here's what I closed out, and here's what's still open. So I want to do two things. One, I want to go over the profit and loss from the trades in the August videos, and I also want to then go over the trades that are still open that I'm losing money on, and talk about what my plan is for the time being to close those out or to let those ride and give them an opportunity to turn profitable. So flipping over here to the spreadsheet, so this is ticker, buy date, cost basis, sell dates, price, and the realized P&L or unrealized P&L. So if there's not a sell date, then it's still open. And then I put in the price as it was when I was making the spreadsheet this afternoon. You see, this was about an hour ago. And then that goes in the unrealized P&L because I haven't closed that position yet. Now, we're not going to go through all of these, but here's the list. And then basically, this is the average realized P&L that I have from the closed position, which is good because, as you know, my standard exit plan is wait until the stock gets plus 5% and then set a trailing stop loss of 1 to 2% on that stock. And so this tells me that that's generally working. I'm very happy with this percentage gain because these are very, very short-term trades. If you look, this was open a week. This was open a week and a couple days. There's several that were open many fewer days. You see here, just 4 days. And as we get up here, there's definitely some shorter ones. This was just like a day. And so certainly some of these I could have let ride, but the trailing stop loss allows me to do other things and not have to watch the market so closely. So if you're kind of that mindset of, hey, I have a job, I have a family, I just don't like how crazy it makes me to sit there and watch the tick by tick by tick and try to make the decisions, trailing stop loss can be a great tool to utilize to lock in your profit or make sure that you don't lose your profit. And just know that you're always going to leave something on the table. Like that stock could go up another 20%, right? But you just have to not get too caught up in that and just say, I'm happy with the gains that are hitting the goals that I'm trying to achieve, and move on and keep locking in the green. So that's my realized P&L. My unrealized, now a lot of them are unrealized because they are currently red, so I would expect this to be lower as it is, and or it's unrealized because it hasn't hit that plus 5% on the green side for me to trigger that stop loss. So so that's why this would be expected to be much lower. Combined, these are a little over 4%. Now, I just started the earliest positions that I have here, because I didn't start this series in the beginning of the month, was August 18th. These aren't in chronological order. This was just, I was copy pasting from, from a doc that I had where I create all of the titles for my videos, and because I put the ticker symbols in the titles, so it's out of order because of that. But 8/18, this is really just for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks of trading, this is what I have shown now. I have a hidden row here, which I'll show you, and this says total. Now, just keep in mind, this is, let me explain, give you context of what I mean by total. What I don't mean is the total realized gains that I had. What I mean is I literally just summed. I took a sum of all of the pluses and minuses in this. So when you see plus whatever percentage, all that means is the sum of all of these is that. And this was just to give me some reference point of, am I generally losing more than I'm winning? And how outsized are these wins? Because you see there's some big losses in here, right? Peloton lost 11.5%. Zoom lost over 15, Root lost over 10, but there's only 4 losses in the realized P&L, and the rest are green. But there's some really big wins too, right? Skills over 11%, 37.5% on TSP, almost 19% on any, 10.5% on PDD, about the same on BLDE. So, these are just good reference points for me to have. So just keep in mind when I put the total here, this is my total gains, because also I just put the percentage change from the stock price, and I have varying amounts in my portfolio, meaning every stock that I'm buying, I don't have $1,000 of that stock. I have a rough amount that I'm generally comfortable with. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want people to get really bogged down and caught up in the size of the account. For just a general guideline, I will tell you it's tens of thousands. It's not hundreds of thousands. And so that's the size of the account that I'm playing with, or not really playing with, that I'm using to swing trade. And so, yeah, just keep in mind when I put the totals, it's not the total gain because it's not taking into account the total amount that was invested and then realized. It's just the percentage sum from column F and column G. So this is that. So we do see winning much, much more frequently than losing. And the losses, although some of them they do tend to be higher, which is what I would expect based on my trading style. Because also 2 of these, Zoom and Peloton, were earnings. And to be honest, when I took the position, I didn't realize that they were having earnings like after market close or before market open the next day. So that was obviously a learning thing on my part, right? It's something to learn on my part. Check for earnings before you take these positions because you could get crushed. But I would anticipate losses to generally outsize the gains. The trick then there for me is to have many, many more gains than losses, which you see here. Of all these wins, just 4 losses, but 3 of them in double digits. So something to keep an eye on there, obviously. But if I had avoided the earnings situation, I would have avoided 2 of them. Now, if I could have swapped those out with other losses, of course, but theoretically, they may not have been as low. All right, now let's take a look before we get too far along here. I want to take a look at the unrealized. So these are all still of my open positions. You see some of them are getting very close to the 5% where I'd set the trailing stop loss. But I want to take a look at just the red ones and just talk about what my plan is for those, because it's only 5 symbols, I think. So we have time to go through those, and I'll talk about what it is I'm looking for to decide whether or not to stay in or exit the position moving forward. So first one here, CE. CE is about to close below this 20 MA, which would typically be what I'd look for a potential first stop loss, breaking below that first MA and closing. What I'm most likely to do here, because the 50 is so close, is see what it does at the 50. Meaning I don't want it to come down and wrestle with the 50. I want to see it either not get to the 50 and resume its uptrend like we saw here, or I want to see it bounce really hard off of the 50. If it can't do that, I'll go ahead and cut my loss there and reallocate the capital elsewhere. Because in general, the other thing I don't want to do is get tied up in positions that are even flat or slightly losing positions, because I know that if I get them into the right groove, that they can have really good profitability. But the MACD staying relatively flat here, and volume also staying relatively flat. So I think that there's the chance that it's working to pick a direction, and the 50 MA could provide the support needed in order to get that bump up there. I'm looking for it to get into this blue box ideally, because that would be a double top out from this most recent top out. But for now, it's making lower highs, which I don't love, and I want to see where it takes this low at the moment on this retracement. The next ticker would be AVGO. So AVGO coming down. Now it has about $6 more until it gets to this 20 MA. So I'm going to give it that breathing room. That said, there is I have a very hopeful support zone here. You see, this was resistance that flipped to support here, previous resistance here, previous resistance that tried to get support there. So it's potentially a strong support zone. So if it has an opportunity to bounce, I'm going to look for it to bounce there at about 187.89. So mid to high 487s, sorry. But if not, and it starts falling below this 20 MA, then that will be my sign to cut loss, and definitely percentage-wise room to let it breathe there. Now, BCTX has a little bit less room to breathe, but, well, this is probably quite different. 682, what did I have it at here? Yeah, so this is, so if I update this here, so now it's just down 3%. This is kind of a weird one because it's been steadily creeping up on a shorter time frame. On the 5-day here, it's been following this VWAP up. Let me hide the MAs at the moment because I was actually watching the VWAP on this. So it's been following this VWAP up for several days, right? And then it started to pull back a little bit. But what I'm looking for is some run or some big news to come in, because you did see there were days here where the volume started to bump up quite a bit, and so I'm trying to give it some room to see if it's going to play out with that. Now the other thing is with this blue box that you're looking at here, if we go to the year to date here, you can see this. So see this huge gap, but you also see this range that it's been trading in. So my theory with this one is if it can establish, you see how it just like shot its arm up, aka its wick, above this range, but it wasn't able to breach it yet. But if it can breach this and get actual price action here around like over $7, say, I think then there's a strong potential that it's going to take off to the upside. And so that's what I'm holding onto this, waiting for. Now, if it comes back and starts fiddling around in this box some more, then I'll probably step away, aka close the position, and then look to potentially come back to it again in the future. But it has a good opportunity right now. It's holding really strong there, so we'll see what it does. CRWD was another one that I got caught with. I didn't realize that there was earnings that were happening. Now, let me throw the MAs back in here. So the MAs are keeping pretty tightly on this gap here. So they're just sort of in line with where that would be anyway. So my danger zone here is one of two things. One, if it falls below this support, which it's going to get to pretty soon, 265.50, then I'll be concerned that it's going to come down and potentially fill this gap. That would bring it down all the way to 247-ish, 248, just to fill the gap, and then there may be momentum downward that even drags it down further. But for the time being, I'm waiting to see if it's going to hop off of that 265.50 support and or the MAs, as they should start to get out of this gap pretty soon and add additional support. But if it shows any indication of falling below those, then I'm going to assume that it may come down to fill the gap, and I don't want any part of that. That's too much of a loss. So I would cut loss at break below this 265.50 or the MAs, as they should be right around that same area by the time it gets there, if it gets there. And the last one, LMT, Lockheed Martin, is just continuing on this downtrend. So this bullish crossover, it hasn't done much of anything. I thought it had a good opportunity to establish over the 20 MA there, and we see it's just yesterday started to close below and bump its head again. So I'm going to have a pretty I mean, it's down just a small percent, right? Less than 1%. So I'm pretty willing to give it some space to come down to about this 354-ish area to see if it can catch support right around here and not make a lower low or an equidistant low, because to me this should have been enough of a double bottom for it to go from here. Now it could just be going like this, right? So that's why I want to give it about $3 more leeway, which is a tiny amount in a stock that's over $350, to see if it's going to come through. You see volume holding nice and strong. It's just a question of, is this MACD bullish momentum already curling back and dying off or not? But that's what I'm looking for on that one. All right, folks, well, I hope that this was useful. And again, please put in the comments if it would be helpful for me to more frequently share the closed positions as I take them, and talk more consistently about what I still have open and what my plan is to close those. Otherwise, if folks don't want to be aware of those things more consistently, then I'll just plan to do it after every month. So I'll do one at the beginning of October for the September swing trades, and so on and so forth. But I'll always keep making the videos that I talk about my buys from the day, and put those out after market hours as well. Alright, well, I hope your trading week is going well and that you can finish it strong tomorrow. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.